Welcome back, everybody. This is another Dren 608 Plays. We are playing the U.S. Civil War by GMT Games. I am using the Vassal module 1.16 that you can find on the Vassal website to play this game because I am both table space uh, challenged and also I don't have anything recording-wise set up that I could even record it if I had the table space. So we're going to use the Vassal module to do this. I am trying to remember to open up the windows that things happen on and I don't remember. I tried to write myself better notes. I'm getting more verbose in my notes to try and remind myself to open windows so you guys can see what the heck is going on. With that said, if you like what you see, please hit the like button, please leave comments, and please share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. It helps small creators like myself keep going. Thank you for the 400 plus people that have already subscribed. It really means a lot to me. If we ever break 500, I will do some kind of stream. I'll put up a poll for people to ask me what they want to see me stream, and I will do something about that. I did have a poll up about some things to do. Two things that have come through is to continue this game, and the other one was for me to continue a stream I started for my 400 anniversary. I think I still have that saved game somewhere. I'll have to go look and see. I'm not sure exactly where it went, but maybe I'll be able to do that at some point as well. I do stream on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Right now, those are tend to stream only role-playing games because they kind of fit that that motif where you're just sort of in a stream of consciousness, and then you go until you get to a decent stopping point. Um, so you can check out the channel for those. I'll talk more about those at the end of the video. And let's go ahead and get started here. I'm not sure what notes I wrote myself. Okay, I moved the turn marker into winter. Okay. Yeah, we're in the winter turn, so this is going to be hard. It's me just doing things there to get turn 9 started. So the no Union reinforcements in the winter turns at all. I get to place an upgrade or upgrade a fort for free. I put one in Nashville because why not? Okay, it has to go in its construction site. At the end of my next action cycle for the Union, it will become actually a fort. And then we open up cards. So I got an any and an any, which is very, very good. Any's are really nice because wherever you think you need to do something, you can just drop an any card, whether for combat or for a naval move, any of that kind of stuff. Okay. I made a comment about that. Now we're going to do the Confederate arsenal placement. And it goes into Georgia. And this is where I found out later that this was probably not the best thing to do, was to increase this to 2, because Macon is already a 2 strength resource. What I should be doing is I should be putting these arsenals, and this is up to debate on whose ideas are better on this, but there's lots of 2s here in Georgia. So what I was thinking I should have probably done is possibly put one in Midgeville, because if you have a 2 strength resource, okay, a 2 strength resource is a primary supply source for the South. Just has to have lines of communication to two other resource hexes. So if I'd have put one in Midgeville, that would become another primary resource. So that's me learning the rules later. I think I make a comment on it here later on in the notes as well. Or maybe it's next video. I'm not sure. I know that I found that out by looking at the rules. Reinforcements calculation. This is me doing the Confederates. I do have to roll some dice for their blockade runners. So their arsenal build points is up to 9 now, because it's been 9 turns. They put one down every turn. And that was the blockade run, 3-4-4. And if you look, I go top to bottom, left to right. So I'm going to bring up the chart for the blockade running. We're in 1863 now. So 3 plus 3 is 6. 4 plus 3 is 7. 5 plus 4 is 9. So I believe I got 24. See if I did my math right. Yep, 24 for the blockade, 9 for the build points, 80 because that's how many resources the South still has control of, which comes out to 113. We have to take 10 off for maintenance, which is 103. We have to divide by 10 and drop fractions, so we get 10 strength points. But in the winter, you have to subtract 10 strength points from whatever you calculate, so they actually get no strength points, which is why at the end of the last turn, moving this up to 5 was probably a good idea because I might be able to sneak in a strength point here in the winter that I normally wouldn't get to help bolster up whatever's going to happen. And then cards for the Confederates. They got an east and an east. And I was talking to myself about maybe an interface. You'll notice I made a big white space over here. In time, you're going to see me start to move these things over into this white space for the discard pile. I don't know why they didn't construct this like this should be the hand and this should be the discard pile. You should just have one of these boxes just be the discard pile, but they didn't do that. So I don't know what they were thinking when they created the module. I wasn't there. Naval reinforcement rolls for the South. A 3 in the 4. So a naval battery in Louisiana. I was really torn on where to put this, I think. And I think I ended up putting it in Baton Rouge. I was thinking of a strategic move up to Vicksburg or something, but I think I decided on doing something else. It's me just adjusting some things. Displaced units, the Union first. I dropped Couch into Washington. Or did I put him in the Army of the Potomac? No, I think I put him under the fort. Okay, yeah, I put him under the fort. Okay. And then over here, what did I have over here? I think I had a displaced unit, but I don't know where I put him. Maybe it was the Arkansas? Or was it the Tennessee? No, it was the Tennessee one from Clarksville, and I put him in Knoxville. That's what I did. Okay. House to Washington, Tennessee militias, Knoxville. I even left myself a note on what I did. Strategic movement. Union's got 12 rail, 3 river, 3 ocean, and 1 road in each theater, plus my special naval from the advanced rules. Clone some strike. This is me just cloning some strength point counters for movement. So this is me moving by a road. I was kind of showing you the depots that I was going through to get where I wanted to go. So I put 1 strength point into Harrisburg, which has a fort. I think I moved Couch by a rail up to Harrisburg as well to try and deter Jackson from taking a wander up through Pennsylvania. And then I saw some other things that could happen, and I think I'm pulling some stuff from the south. 2 from Army of Cumberland down here in Nashville. You can rail them all the way up through here into Harrisburg. A road from Sumner down here into Harrisburg. 1 rail from Washington and Crouch to Harrisburg. So that puts me at 4 strength points with a 1-point leader, so it's 4 plus 3 to 5 plus 2, maybe plus 4. So I really would like to get up on the same column as him, so I really want another strength point there, but I don't think I did it. And then, of course, I took the road point from Arkansas Post and moved it into Crouch, or into Curtis, to try and go take Camden, depending on who gets to go first, obviously. And river strategic limits from Columbus, Kentucky. So what I did is I made Columbus, Kentucky here 1 less because he had 3, and put him into Memphis. That's me. There's a not cards. I'm making the army bigger. And then over here, what did I do? Oh, I had taken the entrenchment out here, but the entrenchment really should stay until the fort is completed. It doesn't go away when you start the fort, it goes away when the fort's completed. Did I? Oh, yeah. I did read up on the whole river control and river control on Class 2 rivers for the Union. The South having a port on there without a real, like, entrenchment or naval battery or something there to stop it does not actually stop their control for, like, movement. So I was okay in the earlier turns when I was moving stuff down the Mississippi after Kentucky joined, because this is all now Union controlled here. And as far as I can tell, once Kentucky comes in, I'm not allowed to move into here, into this space, while Kentucky is neutral. But once they come into the war, New Madrid is on the other side of Kentucky in Missouri. So it becomes Union controlled, from what I understand. I could have that wrong, but I think that's true. And then they have a control chart. I give you the page in the rule book for control. I think they have it in the charts as well. Yeah, in supply. This is supply. They don't have one like just for control, but just a Confederate port does not block supply here. So if you look here on the supply chart, so they do have a summary of the supply rules, but when I read what stops you from moving things by a river and stuff, it seems to be that you have to actually have something intervening here. Otherwise, these ports from the south don't actually stop the ability for you to move and conduct supply stuff on that. So it was rather interesting that these minor ports don't really matter, other than they're a place where if, like, the South should get a reinforcement in Arkansas, they could place it at Helena because, oh no, it has to be in supply. It has to have a line of communication, so they might not be able to place it there. So I might have cut it off anyway. But anyway, it's a kind of an iffy definition. All right, then the Confederates get to move around some stuff. And then I moved this up to Savannah. I think that's legal. Did I move? What did I move? Yeah, I moved that up to Savannah rather than this one up to Vicksburg. And then Shreveport's where I had my, I had a strength point, I think, in Alexandria. that I moved up into Camden. And I kind of showed you how I went. It was like here to here to here. So that's the line of communication that he followed. I'm trying to do that with my road moves, trying to follow the line of communication. Stealing a strict point from Richmond and Fredericksburg via rail to Army of Tennessee and another to so from Fredericksburg, I split them into two one-strength point things. Sent one over to the west, the Army of Tennessee, and another to the Army of Northern Virginia. So you should see the armies go up a bit. So I go over here and split these guys up. The Army of Northern Virginia went up, and then the Army of Tennessee went up. So that was that. Not sure. Yeah, I couldn't see anything else really to do at this point. So then we're now into leader management. I'm going to zoom down here so you can see these leaders better and what's going on. So Sumner's going to be replaced with Reynolds. Burnside gets removed. Hooker gets promoted and has a free transfer, but I think he's in the Army of the Tennessee, or Army of the Potomac. So he's just going to take that over, I think. Demote and remove Burnside. And I have to promote Hooker. I'm going to have Hooker stay with the Army of the Potomac just because I don't have a lot of 3-star generals running around that I can use over here. Reynolds replaces Sumner. That's going to be on the map. So Sumner goes away and Reynolds goes here. And I just make a note to myself, Reynolds is really in the wrong place. He belongs with the Army of the Potomac because he can, the +2 on his defense, if we can intercept Confederate movement, it will do great things for our defense. And he also has a +1 in the attack, where if you look in my army, I have one guy with a +1 attack. So that would give me that would give me a +3 on attack and a +3 on defense. So I'm going to have to do some swapping of generals around here, I think. McClellan goes out into the west. I think I put him in Cairo because I knew I was going to move him. What I did is I can move 2 leaders, 1 or 2-star leaders around the map. I put McClellan where Reynolds was, and then I put Reynolds in the Army of the Potomac, where he belongs. So there you go. Yeah, I put Garrison with Grant because there's cavalry guys running around, and I figured Garrison, even though he doesn't have the greatest defense in the world, he does have a +1 to attack, so he might be able to like exchange off a Confederate cavalry guy who's at +2, and then maybe we can, keep them somewhat in check. And I put Clarendon there with where Reynolds was because he's just going to start moving into eastern Tennessee to try and draw off forces from around Fredericksburg. And then and Reynolds goes to the Army of Potomac. It's like, I think I got all that right this time. And then here we got to do the south. I've got Gardner into the west and DJ Hill into the east. I think I put Hill in the Confederate Army because I didn't know what to do with him. I think I might move him out later. Hill. And then out here in the west, I had to put Gardner. I thought about it, and what I ended up doing, I think, oops, that's an undo. I'm going to put him in Taylor's X, and I'm going to reassign Taylor to the Army of the Tennessee because all I need here is somebody with a +1 defense, which is what Gardner has. I don't need to move fast down here. because it's going to be me falling back on Baton Rouge and then Natchez and so on. So I don't need to be really fast per se, but Taylor has a +2 attack, so I wanted to put him in an army that's likely to attack, which is the Army of the Tennessee. And so you'll see me put him in there. So that gives me, right now, gives me a +3 to attack. I probably need to drop some of these generals out into some garrison duty because they're not helping me. Like Polk, he's a great defender. Why do I have him in this army when I have 3 points worth of defense anyway? He doesn't help me. And I've got 4 points of attack if I can get to 3 generals. So, and Morgan's there to split off whenever I think there's a good chance to try and do something shenanigan-y. So, I think. Okay. I don't know if I'm doing armies. Yeah, I think maybe I'm playing around with armies. Oh, I had to flip Van Dorn. That's what it was. Van Dorn is up here. He went from being an infantry leader to becoming a cavalry leader. Okay. And he's a slow cavalry general. He only moves 5 instead of, he's slower than Union cavalry, who all move at 6 or 7. And of course the Confederate cavalry all moves at 7, so they're ridiculous. I just dropped him into the Army of the Tennessee so I wouldn't lose him. And we're going into Acton Cycle 1. There we go. That wasn't too bad. Acton Cycle 1 in the winter of 1863. So it looks like the Union. Union. I had a W instead of a U. What was I thinking? So Union initiative and the difference is 2. I think I set the stuff up here right. Okay. So I took 3 strength points from New Orleans, transported them to Baltimore as Jackson could cross the mountains and just take it. I didn't realize that until after I was done with my strategic movement. So you see me split this off. I take 3 strength points out of Banks here. So I made him into 2 3s. And then put him into Baltimore. And then my second AP here was to march on Lee. And I think later on I realized I had to use an any card to move the Navy, move those 3 strength points. So they're going to try to do an avoid combat. They spent 1 extra movement point for control here. So they went 1, 2 into Manassas Junction, and then 3 into Lee's. And advanced on Lee. It is Hooker after all, because he was sure that he could whoop Lee, and he would go after him. And Lee tries to avoid. Lee is 2, cavalry is +2, and -1 because he's going to go over the river into Fredericksburg, which would get him up to the 3d6 column. That was the whole point, is Fredericksburg has a point, and Lee has 12. So if he gets another one, he goes onto the 13 column. And if you look in the charts for combat, 13 or better gets you on the 2d6 table, with which his pluses, he's going to be up here in these ranges. Because he's 2, 4, 6 without even entrenchments, he's +6. So, and then with entrenchments, he'd be +8. So, even if he rolls a 2, he's getting a 10. Or a 3, he's getting an 11, I mean. So he's going to do at least 2 damage. And more likely, he's going to be up here in the 3s. So it becomes a very nasty army that's going to have to just be attrited away, I guess. Need a net of 9+. I rolled an 11, so it was like, yeah, I didn't even need the pluses. Easy to do, and boom, back into Fredericksburg I am. And then for some reason, the army wouldn't go where I wanted it to. And I went there, so that was 1, 2. It was 1, 2, 3, and then I went ahead and reestablished the control there, I think. Now, Jackson can still run around here and beat me up. But, and this is where to move those 3 strength points to Baltimore, I had to use a card. I thought I could just move them with an action point, but to move 3 like that, I needed to move with a card. So I think I used either an any or a naval card. I don't know what I spent. I used the naval card. Okay. So I still have 1 action point left because that's not an action point. That's a special action card, so you don't lose an action point when you do that. So I still had an action point left. And from what I understand, I can spend the action point to entrench them. I might have that wrong, but from what I read, I can do that because, yes, they used all their movement points, but I used a separate action to entrench them in Baltimore. I think I'm in line of communications and full supply. Confederates have issues. Jackson could most likely take Baltimore, +4 using a card to 3 +2, probably lose a strength point, but wouldn't be 2 to 1, so could not control the objective to score the 2 victory points. You could go for Washington. And in both cases, I would try to get a 9+ interception. Oh, I can't. I thought I could intercept. You cannot intercept with people that don't have generals. The intrinsic generals cannot intercept. I have been playing that wrong in my head, which is a huge thing because, yeah, that could be an issue. But if he took one of these, then he better win initiative the following turn in order to get control. And if he doesn't, he's going to be facing like the Army of the Potomac, 1, 2, 3, 4. Crouch would come down and cut him off. There would be a lot of stuff going in there. So, and he'd be out of supply if he went in that far. Well, if he went to Baltimore, 1, 2, 3, 4. Would he be in supply there? I think I had that wrong. I thought he would be out of supply, but I think if he goes 1, 2, yeah, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's an extra 1 to go over the mountain. So 4 would only get him to where he's at. So he wouldn't be in supply, so then I'd have to do the foraging thing, which he probably would be okay outside of Baltimore there. And then if he doesn't win initiative the following turn, he just gets annihilated. And that's a whole bunch of strength points that just go away. So Harrisburg is a 4 strength +3 to 5 +4 Confederate possible to win that and control it. Visit depot at Chambersburg. However, we'll lose 1 strength point, and if it ends in a tie, would be DM because only LOC and not full supply. So I was just kind of going through what my thought process was there. Might make for a good story, but do I want to potentially lose all 5 strength points over the next 3 action cycles as Union counterattack? That was my fear. And the 2 victory points would fade over time, and so unless going for Washington, I think retreating to next to the Army of Northern Virginia is a better move. So I want to try and, quote, win for both sides. I'm going conservative here. Other people would probably do the attacks. Go for the attacks, hope you win the initiative, and then do something. Right? But, and then, like I said, if I miss something, let me know, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what this does is the Army of the Potomac tries to do anything. Jackson can react to Fredericksburg. Army of Northern Virginia can react to Jackson. They have fairly decent chances of getting to where they need to go. In which case, we meet the Army of the Potomac with similar strength points, and I have much better generals at this point. And then I saw New Orleans strength reduced. So I went ahead and sent Morgan into the Trans-Mississippi by Natchez to give Curtis fits. That was my thought. So you see me move him. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's all the farther he can get. And it was +1 to cross the Mississippi there because it's a navigable river, but it's friendly because the fort blocks Union control. Okay. And did I do anything else? Oh, I forgot to flip over the Union Nashville was completed. I forgot to do that. And I think I was checking to make sure I didn't forget anything else. And Camden gets completed, so now it's a fort. Acton Cycle 2, here we go. 6-5, so the Confederates get initiative, but it's a 1 die differential. So basically that's 1 action point in each theater, plus free navals if you have them. The free naval moves are from the naval rules. They give you a free action point usable only for the navies. They can move and attack, but they can't carry troops. And I said Morgan last, and it was actually Wheeler going to the Trans-Mississippi. So he's going to keep going. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to Arkadelphia. This gives Curtis pause because he's got to think of something to do. I thought about it and I said, I don't want to go into that hex. I want to go here. Because I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to Clarksville, or around to Louisville, or I can go to Little Rock, or I can go to Pine Bluff and all the way into Arkansas Post, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can get out here and mess with his supply lines all over the place, which is what he wanted to do. And I said I had to recount that move. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I thought it was 1 extra movement point to cross a river, but I didn't cross a river. I was, because it's physically in the hex, so. And then I went and sent Morgan off into the east. I was trying to figure out where to go with him. I'm leaving Jackson exposed to try and bait the Army of Potomac to attack. Reaction into his hex to catch him. In other words, get the Army of the Potomac to do, try to do an end run, like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when he comes in here, react into his hex. And then if I defeat him, then I can move back 1, 2, like 3, 4, automatically win this. And then 5 into Manassas Junction. So I'm cutting off the Army of the Potomac, and it has to fight its way back, and I can try to mess with it. That was my thought. I took a strength point out of Richmond and threw it in Staunton because I didn't like McClellan being able to maybe just march up on me. And then that was my east function. He's slow, but he heads to Chambersburg. He's just out of reach of Jackson there. Jackson's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can get to Sharpsburg, but I'm not there. I'm not going to Sharpsburg, at least not this turn. I will go to Harper's Ferry next turn. And in the west, I think I just entrenched Clarksville. And 50-50, he wins at Camden. And what I did here, 1, 2, and then 3 into Camden. So I'm spreading things out, threw in any card. So on 1d6 on +3, I got a 6, so I got a 1 star. And then and they rolled, of course, a 6 with 3 strength points, right? So they got a 1 star, which means it was a tie. Curtis retreats and is DM'd, and this is where I made a mistake. I thought Camden was only 1. And then what I did is I took, I used another any card out of my Union cards. So I'm using up all my any cards here. To move Grierson with his with 2 strength points by a river, because that's what you can do. And you go all the way up to Little Rock. So I had a cavalry leader that could chase around Wheeler and strength points to hold part of my supply line was the idea. Notch. Yeah. And that didn't work. So he didn't neither have full supply. This is where I'm wrong, because Camden is got an arsenal that makes it a 2 resource hex. So it actually is a primary supply source. And then all he needed was an LOC to 2 other resource hexes, which he can do. So I was incorrect in demoralizing the guys in Camden. So that was my mistake. Okay. I have been playing that wrong all game, but in that case, it was actually correct. They should have not been demoralized. Acton Cycle 3. So the Union got back initiative and had 2 differential. Okay, so Little Rock and trenches. Basically, these guys split up. Curtis moves back to Arkansas Post. And then I gave it over to the Confederates. Now they have 2 action points. Yeah, I really thought about this. Like going over here, zip down here. I thought about, could I just like move out here and like capture supply lines and shit? And I was like, you know, he's got supply by a river. He doesn't really need me. I could try to run up and grab Fayetteville, but if I go running out here too far, if I can't. I mean, I could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remove control, right? Because the cavalry guy has to remove control. So I could do that, and then I wouldn't have a line of communication down here because this guy has zone of influence. So then I don't have a line of communication back to supply, and that puts me in trouble because although I might survive foraging or whatever, I would be shifted to the left on combat die rolls, which was something that I hadn't thought about initially. But when I started looking through all the rules about that, I'm like, it might not be the best thing. So I went and got myself a strength point. And I think I just stuffed it into the Army of the Mississippi. Yep. My goal in the Army of the Mississippi is to get it up to at least 9. If I could get it up to 13, that would be great, but I don't think I can. But getting it up to 9 means that I'm on the highest of the two. Where's the charts? If I can get it up to 9, I'm at least on this chart with like +2. So I have a decent chance of beating up whoever tries to attack me with the extra fort and everything. +6 from the fort, +2 from the generals, +8. Means I'm going to get a minimum of 10. Even with my old snake eyes, I get a 10. And on that chart, a 10 is at least a strength 2 damage. So Grant has to come at me and do better, which would be much harder for him to do. So that's why I did what I did. Okay. And we go into action cycle 4. And it was a tie, so we got some cards. Bring up the card pulls here. I think the South got a West. And the Union also got a West. That's just me rearranging the cards. So we each picked a West card. And then it was a 3-6, so the Union had a 3 differential. Which I was like, what do I do with a 3 differential? I figured, well, we'll have Stanley go down and grab Helena, because it'll be the end of the turn here. So get that done. Then I took Grierson with 1 strength point out, and I was trying to find the perfect hex for him, and that's it. So Wheeler has to go 1, 2. He either has to come by me this way, right? He has to come through the woods around to get to Lewisburg. It's a very long run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and be out of supply way over here in the woods. You don't want to be out of supply in the woods for foraging. And if he moves through here, I have a chance with my +2 of possibly intercepting him all along the way here. And if he tries to sneak through the mountains this way, right, I can try to intercept him here so that he has a -1 for the mountain and possibly blowing him up that way. So the idea is just, even if I change out 1 for 1 on cavalry leaders with Wheeler, it's a win for me because I can, river my cavalry leader back down to Arkansas Post or something with a strength point and we'll be fine, but he can't. He's got to come up with a strength point from one of these cities for his cavalry leader. So my idea was just, I don't think I can really stop him from doing some damage, but I do have a chance of possibly ending his career, if possible. So that was why I did that. And then I came over here. So McLaren went 1, 2, 3, and then ended, I think, in Warm Springs 4. Because then he'll control Warm Springs. That gives me some depots to mess around with. And I do have 2 strength points, so I am threatening to do something at Staunton. Maybe I get the Confederates to spend some strength points over there. We have not had a lot of big battles in the East. We've had one a couple turns ago, and that's it. Confederates get to go with 3 strength points. So I had all these generals in Fredericksburg. Breckinridge, who's an attacker, 1-0. Magruder, who's a 013. I figured Magruder can help me defend Staunton, and Breckenridge can go down here and maybe get around to attacking and taking back things like Port Royal, was my thought. And if that works, then maybe I can reassign him down to like this strength point down here and have it try to take out back Brunswick and slowly but surely open up the South Atlantic ports. Force the Union to spend cards and stuff to take back forts and things. That's my idea. So that's what I did. Magruder went there. Breckenridge went there. That's 1 AP. 1 AP will allow you to move two 1-star or 2-star generals around the map. You can't move 3-star generals, which I find kind of iffy. On historical grounds, because they did move them around a little bit. I mean, Lee would never leave Virginia, right? But you could see some of these generals possibly being pulled back, like into the South, like Florida or something, or the ones in Trans-Mississippi being transferred back over here, rather than having to march all the time. So I found that a little bit disconcerting. From my perspective, from a historian's perspective, I think it should have been harder to do. Like you have to spend 2 action points to move 1 3-star leader, or maybe only 1 action point or something, or use a special. You can use an any card to move a 3-star leader from one theater to its adjacent theater. You can only move 1 theater over. So only if you're in Trans-Mississippi, you're only going into the Western Theater. If you're in the Western Theater, you can go to the Trans-Mississippi or the East, and if you're in the Eastern Theater, you can only go to the West. I thought that would have been a nice use of an any card if you really want to blow an any card, which is so much more powerful than that. Just to move a 3-star general someplace. Be my guest. But that's just me. Okay, so I moved the generals. Yeah, I was setting up an LOC here. If I go to London, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 movement points. Because in the terrain effects chart, it's a 0 plus movement points if you go through a gap or a pass. So the Cumberland Gap here, from London, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4 to Knoxville, which gets me an LOC. This lets me set up for a run to any one of these resources up here, these objective hexes, which gives me 3 build points. So it's like if I can wait till the end of a turn to do that in the next turn, I can cause some havoc. I won't be in supply, but I can cause some havoc. Okay? So that's what I did there. And then Wheeler. Yeah, I had him run over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It cost me an extra movement point to remove control. I just flipped it over because I figured the Union's probably going to take it back. And it was kind of pointless to think that I was going to hold it for very long. And then we go to the end phase. I think here is where we get rid of DMs. We're getting rid of DMs and establishing control. I think I'm establishing control now. Realized I hadn't taken the strength point with Morgan when I was moving him earlier. Yeah. I had to set the Helena up. I think I'm getting rid of DMs here. Now, this was a mistake. I have to admit. This stack was not demoralized with the battle with Curtis. That was a mistake on my part. I don't think I would have done anything with it anyway because it would have been 2 to 4 or something. Right? He's got 4. Yeah, it would have been 2 to 4, even with a +1. If I thrown a card, had been +3 to his +1. Not a good chance of really winning there. And I think what I did there is I just went ahead and split that up into a pair of ones because Van Dorn can only move one guy. I decide to move off. And this is the Confederate completion, ironclad completion roll. Need a 5 or 6 before I can get it. And that's the end of turn 9, everybody. I got held up. I should be at 24. Let's go over to that part of the map, shall we? I should be at 24, and I'm only at 20 victory points. So I'm 4 behind. So that's not good. And like I said, I'm going to have to start taking more chances and also counter the roving cavalry leaders, which are becoming an issue, which means that's going to be bleeding off some of my strength to maintain supply lines. So that's going to be a problem. I went ahead and put that into the beginning of the next turn space. And I moved the turn down here. And I think that's the end of the log file. I moved turn markers for the next turn and saved game. And that's the end of the log file. So we won't start a new one. So other than that one error, and I think I make a note of it in the next turns of E-log, that those actually were not considered demoralized because they started on a primary supply source and it did have an LOC to 2 other resource hexes, which is what the South needs. So they are fine. Yeah, it's getting a little hairy here. Go out to a little bit larger view. I've got little bits and pieces all along the coast. I really need to take some of these big forts, or the ports behind them. Either way. I kind of need to do stuff along the coast, but I also need to try and start messing with the army of Northern Virginia. I do need to do some damage to it, and I'm not being able to get a good combats here to like just bleed out the Confederate strength so that I can just march around and just start grabbing stuff. That's what I'm trying to get to, and I'm not there yet. And then, he's got Forrest here just waiting to abandon this entrenchment and go on a rampage and just start running around, getting in the way of supply lines and everything else, which is going to be a problem until I can get down here and take out Vicksburg, and then I can drop a few strength points all over the place to hold like victory cities and stuff, and let Forrest run around and do whatever it is he's going to do. Send a cavalry leader just to chase him down and kind of slow down his progress and stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a big cat and mouse thing. I'm not able to. I don't have enough action points to do what I would want to do. That's one of the things I do like about the Victory Games version of that came before this, is that depending on the split, there was never a requirement to march on Richmond, but you could have a split where both sides would get, say, 7 action points or 7 command point spends, which means you could spend command points to do all sorts of things, and you could do like 4 or 5 things in one action phase. Whereas here, it's more like, nope, you get to do one thing in one theater, because it usually takes a couple action points to accomplish what you want to do. And it's a little bit more limiting than I feel like it should be. But maybe I just don't understand how to game the system, so to speak. I am stumbling through this really. This is the first time I've gotten this far in the game. I've played it a couple times in the 1861 scenario, which is more of a, we just have to blitz and grab a few victory hexes as the Union in order to get to over the threshold to win kind of thing. So, if you're trying to get to, what was it? It ends in, I think it ends in I think it's 3 or 4 turns. I'm not sure. I think it ends at the end of the fall. Right? I think it ends here. So you have to have 6 victory points by that point. Well, if you conquer West Virginia, you pick up 1 there. So that puts you up to 3. And then it's like you take back Springfield, that's, you know, and maybe get Fayetteville, that's 4. And then, play around over here in the valley, 5, 6, between these 3, take 2 of them, you got 6, and Lynchburg, you got 6 points, and that's all you need to win the game. So, it's not the same as playing a campaign game where you have to think really long term and the whole blockade thing and all that kind of stuff. It's much more, the campaign game is much more trying, I guess. But anyway, you'll see me make a half-hearted attempt to defend Northern Kentucky there next turn. So if you like what you're seeing, please hit the like button. Please leave me comments, share with your friends. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. Help small channels like myself keep going. And we will see what the Union can possibly start to accomplish in the next turn. We'll get back to the point where we get reinforcements. So maybe that'll start making a difference on what the Union can start pushing forward. I think I've really got to start pushing hard here in the spring and 2 summer. I've got like 4 basically good turns for me to push, but by the end of it, I need to be at what is that, 36 victory points, and I'm only at 20. So how am I going to pick up 16 victory points? It's not going to happen anytime really fast. I mean, even if I took Camden, that's only 1. Vicksburg is only 2, right? So Vicksburg is 2. Jackson is 2. So that's what, 4, 5. Decatur's 1. So if I even took Decatur, that'd be 6, 7, 8. I mean, I only see me picking up like 8 at most. Because I don't think I'm going to get into Chattanooga or Knoxville. Because it don't have enough action points. Even with cards, I don't have enough action points. So Union cards, I've got an East and a West. I'll get a couple more next turn. The Confederates, I made a mistake here. When the Confederates had their turn, they should have probably blown an East card to do something extra. But I didn't. So they're going to end up with an extra card that they're going to have to discard because you can only hold 5 cards at a time. So that was a mistake on my part here. All right. Well, I think that's that. I do stream on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday is Gale Goes Forth. It's a BG3 playthrough that is modded, playing as Gale, romancing Karlak, and we're near the end of the sequence. I have to figure out a way to get into the Prism to deal with Orpheus, and then after that, we will go into the final big battle kind of thing, and that will be it. So it's probably 2 more streams, 2 or 3 more streams at most. Probably 2 more streams for that one. Saturday is a fan pick for me to play a Monk as a Drunken Master subclass in Baldur's Gate 3. We just got done with Orin. We still have to take care of Gortash and talk to Voss, and that one is almost done. I mean, I have one more big boss, Gortash, to take care of, and then I have to go again, find my way into the Prism and deal with deal with the final battle. So that one's maybe 3 or 4 streams. I figure by the end of August, very early September, I should be done with both of those streams. Sunday is me trying to get to being a jack of all trades, so I need to level 1 in all 12 levels. I have 10 of the levels, so I have Monk and Paladin to go. That one, I've already stated that if I get to the point where I get the achievement from Steam, that I will be putting that on pause. I might continue it later, or I might turn it into something that I just record and post from time to time. But I'm going to step away from Baldur's Gate 3 for a little while, give it a rest, because there's lots and lots of creators out there doing Baldur's Gate 3 still. And I'm going to go back to some older RPGs. My sons want me to play Dragon Age Origins Unlimited. So I will be streaming that once I get done with my Baldur's Gate 3. And I also wanted to try out Divinity Original Sin 2 because I've heard lots of good things about it. I saw a couple of videos by Neil Newborn playing with one of his friends in a multiplayer version of it. And then when I decided I wanted to stream it after I saw a couple of the shenanigans he was doing, I was like, okay, I got to play this game. And so I got it for Christmas, and I quit watching videos, which means sorry, Neil, but I can't watch your stuff no more until I get, you know, into the game and like up to where he has been. Then I can go watch how he did things. But both of those games will be uninformed. I have not watched a lot of videos on those, just enough to trigger my interest and say, okay, let's try it. So you get to watch me do lots of TPKs. So you might enjoy watching me flounder into those games. Um, and watch the streams afterwards, or you can join me on the streams. I stream on the weekends, tend to be Friday afternoon, Friday 11 from about 11 to 2, and Saturdays from about 11 to 2, because that's when I have quiet time around my house. And I have to work my streaming around my household. So lots of noise in the evenings, so it's not a real good time to stream. I am doing other things besides this on the channel. You'll see other things that have been posted. So if you subscribe, hit that all button. You'll see when I post everything, and you'll also see when I post up the polls to say, what do you want me to do next? Like, which one comes first, Dragon Age Origins or um, Divinity Original Sin 2? Or if I ever get done with this war game, what's the next war game you want to see me do using a Vassal module and stuff like that? Okay, so hope to see you on the channel. And I'm Dren608. Until we meet again, stay safe and bye-bye.